Hey, everybody. Today's twisted conversation is going to be about Wegovy and how the diet drug Wegovy saved my life. And yeah, Cinnamon is here for the discussion. For whatever reason, she doesn't want to um, move. So we're just going to act like she's not sitting there. And I'm going to do as I always do and take my glasses off so I can't see myself in the video, and you'll understand why in a minute. So, there are a number of different diet shots out there. There's Wegovy, Ozempic, Trulicity, Mounjaro. There used to be one, Saxenda, and I'm not sure if there are any more. They are all not for people who are diabetic. Okay, I took Wegovy and I'm not diabetic, and that's not for diabetics. That one was for people who are morbidly obese, or which is so, isn't that a mean way to say it? Can you just say overweight? But morbidly obese. I felt like, why not just say 1 foot in the grave? Because that's basically what you're saying to me. So anyway, um, I am not trying to convince you to why you should try a diet drug. It's really just to say why I feel Wegovy saved my life. Okay. So it starts, we got to go back to 1977. So when I was 5, it was told to me that if I ran around the block and lost some weight, I would be a pretty girl. And that stuck with me. I didn't run around the block. I didn't do it. All I knew is that I was being told that I wasn't pretty because I was chubby, right? And as I got older, um, I always thought that I was not pretty because I was chubby. And there were times that I really wasn't chubby, but I thought I was. So I still thought I wasn't pretty. So, yeah. Um, you have to be careful what you tell your children because they absorb it, or what you tell anyone in your life. Okay? We take those words and we find truth in them. And for me, hearing that because I was not small, I was not pretty, that has stayed with me for my entire life. I am now 53. And yeah, now some people you may say, go for some help. Oh, okay, you go for some help. That's a whole nother. So, anywho, growing up, I remember my mother we didn't get like the cookies and the sweets and the sweet cereals and all of that. And I was helping my mother bake one day, and I tasted some brown sugar, and that brown sugar was super good. And I was like, "Ooh." So I started taking brown sugar to bed. I would put some brown sugar in a napkin, and I would put it under my pillow. And after my mother turned the light off, that was my dessert. It was the brown sugar. And I remember my mother wondering, she would go, "What is happening with the brown sugar? Why do I have to buy brown sugar again?" And it's because I was eating it. Now, my mother finally found out that I was eating it. It was a Saturday, and she went into my room and she was taking the sheets off the bed, and I hadn't eaten the brown sugar the night before, and she found it. And yeah, I got in trouble. I was probably about 7 or 8. And I just explained it was because we didn't have cookies and stuff like the other kids at school, and we didn't have sweet cereal. And so the brown sugar was it for me. I remember um, my son was 4 and my daughter was 1. And For all you parents out there, when you have children, you know that the struggle is real. And it was just me and the kids. And every night I would take Nestle's chocolate chip the break and bake cookies, and I would bake 3. One for Little John, one for Ashley, one for me. But the kids didn't get the cookies because I made them when they went to sleep. So 3 cookies were for me. And I ate them every night. And it was because I was tired, I was stressed, I was lonely, I was sad, and those cookies brought me comfort. Okay, I was divorced, and so I was a single parent. And mentally those cookies brought me comfort, right? So as time went on, um my sweets at night brought me comfort. And I remember going somewhere with one guy, and we were at the Fox, and this guy came up to him and he turned his back to me, so to act like he wasn't with me. And afterwards I asked, hey, well, why didn't you introduce me to whoever that was? His excuse was, I couldn't remember his name. So I couldn't introduce you when I couldn't remember his name. And so I realized that became a pattern. Then I realized that became a pattern with certain guys that I would meet, that it was okay to come to my house and chill, right? But nobody really wanted to go anywhere. And so I would look in the mirror and I would say, it's because I'm fluffy and I'm not a pretty girl. So who wants to go somewhere and be seen with someone that's not a pretty girl? And I accepted that behavior from the people that I went out with, or for lack of better words, that I didn't go out with, because most of the time they came to my house and chilled. They never came when my children were there. I was real big on not having people around my children, but that's a whole nother podcast later, right? Um, it was another guy, ironically, he would throw a party every other week. And I would go down to the party and he would ignore me the entire time. The entire time he would ignore me. And I would sit at the bar and drink on a one drink, and I would get out and do hustles. And he ignored me the entire time until he would see me leave. And when he would see me get up and go, he would stop me and say, well, hey, sweetheart. Well, where are you going? I was like, I'm out. He would say, but you're my ride home. And that meant ride to my house, right? And I allowed that. But the entire time at this party that him and his boys would throw, he ignored me. Why? I watched him dance with everybody else. And I thought, well, it's because I'm fluffy and I'm not a pretty girl. So who would want to admit to being with a fluffy, unattractive woman? Yeah, that's what I said. So, you know, when they started doing gastric bypass and the sleeve, I remember I knew some people who had those procedures, and they would come to me and they would say, oh, I'm so happy that I did it. You should do it too. And I know they meant well. But to me, it felt like they were saying, because you're fluffy and you're not a pretty girl, that you should do this too. And you too can be small and now pretty. Yeah, no, I didn't want to, because if I'm going to be honest, the thought of giving up cake forever or my cookies forever, I didn't want to. So let me explain. I don't sit here and just eat cake and cookies. Okay? That's not what I do. But I want to be able to celebrate a birthday and have a slice of cake. I want to be able to have a cookie if I want a cookie. Um, and I don't know if there's something for people who are emotionally attached to food. There may be, and maybe I should look into it. But there are programs for people who are alcoholics. There are programs for people who are drug addicts, and there are even for porn addicts, right? So there really probably should be something for people who um, are emotional sweet eaters for comfort. So, anywho, when COVID hit, I was already working from home. I got the job 2019 at Flagstar, and I'm working all these hours, right? Working, right? Just working all these hours. 70 hours a week I was working. And I mean, so I'm getting this overtime, and I also have lymphedema. Don't ask me anything about lymphedema because I can't tell you much about it because I don't even really know. But I realized working all these hours, and then I'm watching CNN all day. CNN is just on, okay? CNN is like part of my family. So I'm stressed about what's going on in the world. My daughter is in California, right? She's in this apartment. She's not working. I'm working all these hours. I'm shooting her $1,000 a month when I can. Little John's car was breaking down. I'm paying to get that fixed. But I'm gaining weight. And I didn't realize it. What I did realize was that my ankles were constantly swollen. But okay, I have lymphedema, so that's normal for me. My toes look like sausages, not sausages, but sausages. So that was normal because I have lymphedema, right? I start walking down my steps and my legs were so heavy, right? My legs were so heavy that it felt like sometimes when I would hit a certain step, it felt like I was going to fall through the steps. Now I know steps are only like this big, so I know my ass really couldn't go through the step, but it felt like it, right? It did. It felt like it. I had gained so much weight and again didn't realize it, but I could no longer wear shoes. You heard me. I could no longer wear shoes. Like my flats, my feet looked like the muffin top in shoes. I couldn't lace up my gym shoes. Okay? I have a narrow foot. It wasn't happening. So I went and bought Crocs. And I always thought Crocs were ugly, right? I have so many pairs of Crocs, it's ridiculous. I recently gave away 10 pair of Crocs and I probably still have 12 pair of Crocs, right? But when it was snow outside, I needed to be able to shovel the snow. And in Crocs, you don't slide. I could literally probably do a commercial for Crocs because I would buy the Crocs that have the fur in them and put my socks on and go outside to shovel the snow. And I never once, not once, did I ever fall while I shoveled the snow. Now, if it was a lot of snow, I might have got snow in my shoes, but I never fell. But I had to wear Crocs with everything. Do you hear me? Everything because I couldn't wear shoes. So this one particular day, I wasn't feeling well. I had to go to the doctor. And at this time, I was no longer underwriter. I was a team lead. Went to the doctor. And the girl said, well, we need to take your weight. And I'm thinking, why? I'm here because I have a sore throat. She was like, well, no, we need you to get on the scale. Okay. So I get on the scale and the scale says 331 pounds. And I look at her and I go, bitch, do you have your foot on the scale? She goes, girl, I understand why you didn't want to stand on the scale. Okay, now who says that? So I walked to the room. And then as I walked to the room, it's the chair. And the chair is this, the width is this. But my hips and my ass is this. So I have to get in the chair. I got to get in the chair sideways. I got to shimmy myself in and then I got to turn. And now I'm in there like a puzzle piece. So if a fire breaks out at this doctor's office and I got to get up and I have to run, I'm taking the chair with me because it's now connected to my ass. Me and the chair are one. Turned out I had an upper respiratory infection and I didn't really even care because I'm 331 pounds. And I remember going to pick up my prescription. And when I picked up my prescription, I also picked up the M&Ms in the purple bag. And I know y'all like, there's M&Ms in a purple bag. There were M&Ms in a lavender bag. They were M&Ms with brownies. What? I don't know who put that combination together, but they were wonderful. They don't even make them anymore. You would think nobody was eating them, but somebody was eating them. It was me because I was going through a bag, the shareable bag. I was going through a bag of those a day because I was so stressed about what was going on in the world, stressed about my children, stressed that now I'm 331 pounds, which to me felt like 600 pounds. And I was like, my mother was right. I've got all this fat around my heart. I'm going to die. That's what she told me before her dementia had kicked in. I remember getting in my car and going 90 on 696 and wondering if I just veer off the road, could I just end it, right? And then I thought, what would my children think? They were in their 20s, but still, what would they think, right? Then I thought, it'd be just my luck. I wouldn't die. I'd end up being a paraplegic, and then they'd have to wipe my fat ass, and that would just be horrific. And then I didn't want to go to hell, so I couldn't do it. So I slowed down and I got off the freeway. And I came home. And I continued to work my hours and work the way that I was doing. And I kept thinking I needed something to make me happy, right? So I remember I bought a purse. I bought another Louis. That didn't make me happy. I traded in my car and I got a Lincoln because I thought because the car was cute, it would make me cute. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. So I remember getting on the freeway one more time. And I did that drive on 696 one more time. And I got off again and came home. And I really, really had to figure out what was going on, right? What was I going to do? And I'll never forget the other supervisor had asked me the next day. She said, "Are you okay? You don't sound like yourself." And I contemplated if I should tell her. And I told her, I said, I'm 331 pounds. And I said, sometimes when I go to sleep at night, I just don't want to wake up. And she said, "Oh, Carolyn." She says, "I'm going to put your name on the prayer list at church," because I know she didn't know what else to say, right? I had just hit her with the what? So she told on me. She went and she told our manager. Carolyn is severely depressed. She's going through something. So my manager told her, tell her to call the doctor's office that I go to. So she came back and she said, "Hey, you need to call." And so I called and I set up an appointment because I can't swallow pills. Okay, don't judge. Judge your mama, don't judge me. And if I could swallow pills, man, I would have OD'd on diet pills a long time ago as a teenager, right? So God knew what he was doing by making it so I couldn't swallow pills. So I drove. Now, the doctor's office is an hour away. It's in White Lake. It's an hour away from me. And I went and met the nicest nurse practitioner. And he gave me Saxenda. And that's when you had to do a shot every day. And I had to go back in a month. And when I went back in a month, my whole stomach was whelped in purple. And he said, "Oh," he was like, "You should have come back a long time ago. Those are allergic reactions." And he took me off of it immediately. And then he gave me the Wegovy. The one thing that he said to me is that it didn't matter if I didn't lose any weight. I had to know that I was beautiful. Now, that's the first time anybody in the medical field had ever said to me, "Who cares about that number on the scale? You have to know that you are beautiful inside and out." I was like, he's just playing, right? So I started taking the drug or the shot. Made me sick. It made me sick. Oh, Lord Jesus, it made me sick. I would get so nauseous, I could just lay in the bed. It was horrible. Do you hear me? Horrible. I couldn't stand to see commercials with food. I remember going to the grocery store. I had to get the hell up out of there because it was too much food in the grocery store and it was making me nauseous. Like it was bad. To smell food, horrible. Horrible. Okay. I ended up getting on, well, I was taking Dramamine for a long time. Oh God, just to say Dramamine makes me want to throw up because I was taking it all the time. It was horrible. So I started taking Zofran, which is for narcissism. And I would take the Zofran the same time I would take the shot. So that would help. That would help so I wouldn't get so sick, right? And now with the Wegovy, um, it can make you constipated, which I have a really bad stomach. I have IBS. I have no idea what constipation is all about. So when it happens, it's horrible. Um, I would still get nauseous. If you eat one bite too much, man, it pushes you over the edge. So let's say on Fridays, I would get a 4-corner pizza. I never ate all 4 corners. Okay. But let's say I'm really hungry and I can eat 2 corners and half of the third piece. Well, on the Wegovy, you can be really hungry and you can eat those 2 pieces. But if you ate that half piece, trust and believe you ate a half too much and you are going to pay for it. Oh, God. With the Wegovy, it also made me, when I wake up in the morning, I would have to eat something. I was good for skipping meals. So me being overweight wasn't because I sat and I just ate all day and I ate whatever I wanted to. No, I skipped a lot of meals. I skipped meals because I was like, I'm big and I shouldn't eat. Everything tells you should not do that, right? Um, the Wegovy helped me because it made me eat in the morning, so it got everything going. I ended up having hip replacement. So right before hip replacement, I had to get off the Wegovy. So that was, I had hip replacement after my 50th birthday. So right before I turned 50, I had lost 46 pounds. So my goal was to lose the 49 that I had gained. And I hadn't quite made it, right? But I was no longer in the 300 mark. So I was excited about that. Got off the Wegovy, had hip replacement, gained some weight back, got scared, got stressed, but I wasn't moving, right? They just replaced the hip and made a leg longer. So now I'm depressed. Oh my God, I got this leg that's longer than the other one. What the hell? Eventually, I got back on the Wegovy to help me lose the weight that I had gained. Um, my legs weren't feeling as heavy. I could wear shoes again. You don't know what it's like to be able to wear shoes again and to put the Crocs up. Let me show you where my hip hurts, the old hip hurts. But I can, You might not be able to see it, but I can cross my legs. I haven't been able to cross my legs in 16 years, right? I could cross my legs. Um, so after I had hip replacement and a year went by, I was able to get back on the Wegovy, had to start all over again. And I ended up losing 76 pounds total. So the vascular surgeon said to me, hey, you've lost 76 pounds. I'm going to do liposuction on your thighs. Because again, that's where most of my lymphedema, that's where my issues are. So she wanted to do liposuction and a thigh lift. Insurance didn't cover the thigh lift. And that's a whole nother podcast later. But she did the liposuction. She removed 6 liters of fat, which is supposed to be 13 pounds. But I still have the skin that's hanging. The recovery from that liposuction was horrific. Do you hear me? And I went back up to like 270 because I was barely moving. And again, I am still an emotional person. So I'm still looking for food or the sweets for comfort. So now I'm gaining the weight and I've got these sagging skin and it was horrible. So I was able to go back on the Wegovy yet again. And just as I'm thinking it's going to help me get to my goal of 250, because I said I would get off the Wegovy once I hit 250. Well, then I got laid off. And I was, yeah, I was supposed to be able to get another script. The job ruined that. That's a whole nother story as well. But I couldn't get that last script, right? And I will tell you, as of today, I'm 258. And I know you're probably thinking, well, that's still fat. Okay. But it's not 331. And I'm 8 pounds away from my original goal. And I'm going to make it without the Wegovy because I have taken it so long that subconsciously when I eat stuff, I know not to eat too much. And even now, I can take a bite too much of something and my body instantly gets sick because it's like you had a bite too much, or you should not have had that because you know that's going to make you not feel good. So, that being said, Wegovy saved my life. I had a bad hip, so I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't run up and down the steps to lose the weight like what everybody wanted me to do. I had started falling because my hip was so bad. And you have to remember, at 331, my legs felt like elephant legs and I couldn't wear shoes. So it was a task just for me to walk. The Wegovy helped to aid me in losing the weight with minimal activity. Yeah. And for that reason, I am super, super thankful for it. So when people tell you that getting on a diet shot is cheating, it's not. You do what you need to do for you. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And I'll say this. If you are with someone who doesn't appreciate you the way that you look and the way that you are, and doesn't want to show you off to any and everybody that they know, that is not the person for you. But you have to accept the skin that you are in first before you want to make someone else accept the skin that you are in. We are all different. We are all not supposed to look and be the same. We're not. But whatever a person chooses to do to lose weight, whether it's the gym, whether it's walking, whether it's weight loss surgery, or whether it's a shot, you do what you want to do for you. And at the end of the day, that is all that matters. But I will say, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it until the day I die, Wegovy saved my life, and I am forever grateful for it. And if you come to my house and you see that there's sweets here, yep, I still make sure I have a dessert at night. But here's the difference. I don't always eat it. It's knowing that it's here if I want it. I can have a brownie, but I eat a part of the brownie. So I've learned to do things in moderation. So yes, I still have that emotional tie to something sweet, but I do it in moderation. And it works for me. So again, do what works for you. I am going to work on getting to my goal of 250. I've got 8 pounds to go. And then I get to get a new tattoo. That's my treat. And I'm sure I'll make another goal. But if I never lose another pound, I will be okay with the skin that I'm in. So that's it for my talk on Wegovy. I hope that you guys have had the weekend that you deserve. I've had the weekend that I deserve. And until next time, cheerio.